Are you ready to walk the forbidden road? We are 7 layers deep into this 9-layer fairy tale hell. The rave was just purgatory. Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, Mathwiz. We're almost gonna die and go to heaven.
How
did you like this stretch of chapters?
The Grand Magic Games, we were able to have like a nice passionate discussion about it, like, the pros and the cons. Like it was extreme in like both emotions. This one we're just back to like, this was an arc that happened.
To like for you, I guess, right? Where it's like, because for me, I had some of my favorite moments in the series this arc, and I didn't expect that at all.
I didn't.
Also, yeah, I know, it's understandable. I also had my single least favorite moment in the entire series so far.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
just
that.
Just one slow, long, just groan.
Alright, comments. You had one, and I had a couple, so I guess I'll start. Unless I happen to pick up yours. Gabriel Wright, Duan made a comparison. Well, because like one thing I hadn't considered, because I was talking about the authority thing, because generally the Magic Council has been sort of the prevailing authority, and the kingdom is just there. And the comparison he made was that it's kind of like how it worked in Japan, where the emperor is kind of the figurehead, but the shogun really has the power because they control the soldiers, the army. And they also compared it to Naruto, where the lords of the villages they're the leaders, but it's the Kages who more or less control what's the power. They have the soldiers, the ninjas, the actual like fighting forces. So mages are power, like, and that's kind of what happened during the Grand Magic Games. Is the dragons are coming, so the king needed the mages to step in, those who are under the authority of the Magic Council. So yeah, I guess it is. I think what tripped me up about it is that like the Western king is like the absolute authority because like they have the God-given right to rule. Like they have the they command soldiers. Like in reality, the royalty was trained to lead armies. So it's like they were the ones who commanded both the political power and the military power. So seeing like this sort of mix, because here you have like it's the Eastern culture idea of the figurehead with the Western culture framework of the king. So that, I guess that kind of confused me, and I never thought about it like that. So I don't know, just a thing. If you had a thought on that, go right ahead.
No.
Okay, go ahead with your comment then.
My comment was from C Note. In regards to whatever
the
happened
self-sacrifice, because I also had
the self-sacrifice
yes.
with Altair.
Because I didn't, or go on if you had, or if you just wanted to bring it up, I can go, but go ahead.
It does. I don't know. You go ahead. Maybe you'll help me process it better.
It's also something like, because the message seems like mostly it was there with Tower of Heaven, because like Simon, Urza was trying to sacrifice herself. Simon did, but it didn't seem to amount to anything. But then here Altair sacrifices herself and it works out, more or less. Not for her, but that's why it's a self-sacrifice. But then like there were rewards for her efforts, and yeah, I guess in that it does kind of contradict that earlier idea.
Yeah, that was I guess sort of a thing that I thought was interesting about her initial, like back on Tenro Island or Sirius Island, where she was going, like she tried to kill herself, and then Merudi was like, yes. No, you can't leave me, and so like that was her burden, and it was kind of similar with Jalal. But then here she does do the self-sacrifice. Yeah, so.
And to stay thematically consistent, she probably should have actually amounted to absolutely nothing. But like, because he also explained it like as to why, because wouldn't the dragons and Rogan stuff also have remembered that 1 minute? But it's like, but his explanation was like, oh well, they're from a different timeline, so they operate under different or something dumb like that. It's yeah. So that was it, and I was like, okay, whatever. Don't think about it. Actually, that was all my comments. So you had one of them. So that is it. Yep.
Yeah, I was like half expecting you to bring up my comment like right off the bat. Like I was like, wow, wouldn't that be funny? But no, I beat you to it.
Stole your thunder. I was about to, but then I was like, no, I'll do this other one first, and then all right, we're good. So I guess starting the reading, let's rip off the Band-Aid and just get into it. Because for me, it's like the weaker parts were in the earlier stuff, and then like later on there were the parts I enjoyed. So I don't know. There's dumbness later on too. Oh right, there's a big reveal that happens later that we get to talk about. So anyway, bath scene, fan service happens. I forget what the point was. I guess, well, because it comes up later. Oh boy, does it come up later. But like, one thing I've just generally noticed about, it's been happening since at least Tenro Island, if not earlier. But I definitely feel like Mashima has upped the sexuality of his work. Like, it's not just that the girls are hot, but it's like, oh no, he'll frame this panel from this lower angle. Or like, oh, this character's knocked down and their clothes happen to contour perfectly to their butt or whatever. And I just feel, or he'll draw like these lines. So I just been noticing that lately. So I don't know where exactly the ship happened. Maybe it was more gradual, but it's just like, everything has to be sexual if there's a female character in the panel, and that has,
Mashima, if you want to draw porn, just go draw porn.
Please, we would all be very grateful. Just stop the manga. Just draw porn. Doujins, please. I think everyone would agree. We'd rather have that.
I mean, there was a particular character in this arc which was like tied to the moment, neither of us really like, but I don't know. I don't know what the intent of that character is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was surprised, because one thing that surprised me about, because you said, why, and like, okay, that, like, the Urza stuff, like, I didn't care for a lot of her stuff this arc, but I did for other characters, because, like, I guess what surprised me is, like, how, fuck it, I was like, oh, I'll bring it up later when it's actually relevant, but, like, I'll mention afterwards and stuff, but, like, oh, Mirajane's backstory, I've been meaning to get to this for a while, but, I decided to give it here, or, oh, this gray-silver stuff, I've been planning this for a while, but, like, the specific arc he brought in these ideas that he's had for a while is also when those ideas were the most thematically relevant. So, I don't know. I was just kind of surprised because normally he's so bad with the planning and stuff, but here he's like, he's just happening, like his ideas are generally working, but then there's also the ideas that aren't working. And then here it's more of, I guess, a stylistic choice with the sexuality thing that is very much not working in one specific regard, but we'll talk about that. I've already talked about it if you watched the tirade.
I think it was Levy in one of the like part of the panel where it's just like, we're talking about boobs again, and it's just like, thanks. Yeah, Mashima, he's being self-aware. Ooh.
Yes, and of course it's the character with slightly smaller breasts who's bitter about it. So as it be, I guess. Oh, and there's, so anyway, trying to move on a bit, there is a rave reference.
Yes!
That was Urza being good. She's, like, getting into her role, and she's Ellie, but then Wendy is Haru, and Haru's small now.
And then you have, what's Carla as
Carla,
Blue.
Yes.
Which
right,
is also just, like, a weird sort of, not out of character, but it's casting. Like, it's, the casting is just interesting, and it makes it look all the funnier. And, like, the goofy face of her Urza, because she's a bad actor, but she's really passionate about it.
She's a good girl. Bad actor, good girl. Okay. Oh, then it goes back to the bath, and Flare is there, and so Flare gets a lot more focus this arc. But there's a little issue I have, but I will wait on that one.
You mean the fact that she's just not an interesting character?
No, because that's like again, there's a lot of uninteresting characters in Mashima's stuff, but it's a specific issue with her, and how she's. Anyway, moving on. Like, there's just like a general cool off period. They like Urza and Wendy do the thing where they're in Lucy's room before she is. And they go to see Gray and Natsu. Oh, they've been on this job for too long. And it's because they did the job, and then they've been fighting each other ever since. Because they're stupid. But anyway, they do get a mission from Warad, one of the 4. Okay, so I checked the Wikia, and I didn't see the original, like, what the Japanese words were, but on the Wikia they called these guys the 4 gods, whereas this translation went with the 4 emperors. So
it's not necessarily Mashima just stealing from Oda.
No, right. As in, I don't think they're called just the Yonko, which is what they are in One Piece. So it's like, because I think you mentioned that last time, but I just like, I didn't notice it. But it's like, yeah. So it's not a one. This is not a One Piece reference. Well, because it's also like, I'm surprised it's not. There's a word for it. I forget it's like the 4 heavenly kings, which there's a series called Toriko which uses that. I believe in Pokemon, the Elite Four in the original Japanese are called the 4 Heavenly Kings. It's like I don't know if it's a reference to Chinese myth or Chinese history, but it's like a bit, Kill la Kill with the 4 Satsuki's 4 dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So it's like, this is it's a common thing. So I'm kind of surprised he didn't use that for these guys, because it's like, it's a common thing that crops up is referenced. But, no, here you have the 4 emperors who are also the 4 gods, apparently. So, yep, I don't know where, I don't even know what the original Japanese is, so, but I guess it's like, oh, they're the 4 gods because they're not even human, they're just really powerful mages. But yeah, is this another name I can't even say, even though it's 6 letters? Warad is, he's just an old dork, and he sends him on a mission, but it turns out we learn more about him later. Oh yeah, because he was a founding member of Fairy Tail, and we will, next time we are going to read Fairy Tail 0, which is the manga basically about the formation of the guild. So, it's only a volume, but that will be next time. So they go out to do the mission. So once again, we're in this is just a short arc before, but it does set up later stuff. I don't know, it's pretty simple. I'm trying to think, did you have anything to say? Because there's a setup with the Sylph Labyrinth, and then there's the demons, and then there's some fighting. I don't know. Did you have any feelings whatsoever?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that as a no, because I didn't really either. So I guess one thing Mashima, just starting out, because Gracie's the frozen giants, and he thinks about Deloria, and the guys have the moon drip, and I feel like I've seen this somewhere else before, but I can't remember, but it's there are times when a manga author is planning to reintroduce something from ages ago, because what happens later with Gray vs. Silver is you get it's reapproaching the whole Deloria thing, his sort of his Gray's backstory and the trauma from that, but he's not just bringing it up just then when it's relevant. He's alluding to it even earlier. So I feel I just feel that's a good technique for long running series, because again, not everyone is going to have read the entire thing or remember that far back, especially that was how many years ago, that was in publication time. We're in chapter 300. Galuna was chapter 40 in the 40s or so. So yeah, we're talking 5-6 years. So yeah, I just think it's a good technique. So I thought I feel like I've seen it before. I just don't remember where. But anyway, there's just fighting, I guess, as they figure shit out, and the mystery with, what's the flame, and there's who froze it, and then there's the demon who turns people into kids. Minerva's there. She's bad now. Well, I mean, she was always bad, but now she's in a different guild, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was always bad, but Urza doesn't think so. Urza thinks that there's
no, there's good inside her. Somehow. But yeah, so Flare and Lucy and Wendy beat up the treasure hunter dudes. There's teamwork. Virgo is whenever I feel at least 50% of the time she comes out, she just does it's to highlight how useless she is. I don't know why. Cause here she couldn't burrow in the ice, and I think there was something during the Grand Magic Games where she was helpless as well, and I'm okay, I don't know why this specific character so often. But yeah, I do Gray has a lot of good moments this arc. Like here you have him like, oh, yeah, my magic might be weaker, but it was creative focused in the first place, and I still have that, so he's able to like use, he can't use his big attacks, but he just uses like sneaky, tricky fighting, and it's cool.
Mashima using strategy in his fights.
Like I said, Gray usually, or like back with like Ultir, Gray usually has like the cool stuff, and when it comes to the creativity.
Get
and
it?
such.
Cool, because he has ice powers.
But yeah, Gray is able to like, kind of overcome the trauma bitten, control the evil ice, the demon slayer, or the demon slayer magic ice, and wins. Natsu awakens or they burn down they get to, they find where the flame is, and they find out that it was the dragon from 400 years ago, and he wakes up and thaws out all the ice, and things are happening, I guess. I don't know, it's like a mystery that kind of, we already know the answer to because we already read it, so it's like, okay. And of course, there's developed a Tartaros with Silver, and I think Kyoka shows up. So anyway, I guess to get to it, the last like major thing I had to say about the arc, because we find out Flair's backstory. She came from this giant village, and she left, and she got picked up by Raventail. Did you have any thoughts about that? Because I have one.
Go for it.
Or what was that? You kind of cut out a bit.
Oh, I just said go for it.
Okay. So like she said that like Flair isn't that bad. It was just Raventail. Like she didn't know any better. Flair tried to kill a child.
Yeah, that happened.
She didn't seem to be like prompted to do that. She just like did it of her own volition. It's okay.
See, this arc, like this whole arc, just in general, I had some issues. This isn't the first time this has happened. Where like Mashima, like I'm all for the optimism, and because like I'm a a big defender of the talk no jutsu in Naruto about the villains, having like there's a way, it's the optimism, like people can change and whatever. But I don't feel like Mashima dwells enough on the things that some of these characters have done. Like you did have stuff with like Ultir and Jalal, like they were trying to fix their mistakes in the past. But then you have like it happens with Minerva sort of later. Here we're talking about I don't even remember her name, but the Raven Flare. But yeah, it's like that's just like it feels like it's just swept under the rug. Like, oh yeah, she killed a child, but she was never bad. Like, it was just Raventail, which... Yeah,
like, I haven't considered that specifically, where it's like...
It's like shifting the blame off of her, which doesn't... Yes. I'm not a fan of like, that.
If a character needs to be redeemed, then what they've done needs to be addressed. And, like... so I guess, like, going back to Naruto, I think we had this issue, too, a bit, where it's like Orochimaru did a lot of fucked up shit, and what we don't even know how he was punished in the context of Naruto itself. Like we have to wait till Boruto to find out. Whereas Sasuke, he gets exiled. He killed like 2 samurai and he did a lot of attempted murder, to be fair. But like he gets exiled. Like I feel like what Sasuke did was recognized and acknowledged in the narrative, where what Orochimaru did not necessarily. Again, in the context of Naruto. So to come back to Fairy Tail, it's like. Minerva I haven't really thought about, but yeah, Flare, it's like, yeah, she tried to kill a child, and Mashima never brought it up, and so, like he was acknowledging, like, oh yeah, she was in this evil group, but that was acknowledged and fine, but it's like, if that was all she did, but it wasn't, and again, with Gajeel, like we talked about this earlier, like, he did some fucked up shit with, he captured Lucy and threw knives at her, and just, like, a lot of, like, and that was never addressed, even though the stuff with Levi was, so... Yeah, I mean, so, like, Gajeel, I think he's had enough positive moments that, like, I don't mind that specifically, but Flare, this is basically the end of her role in the story. So, okay, whatever. And also, back to the sexuality thing, is, like, she's crying about, I'm home, and her fucking giant tits take up, like, more space on the frame than her head, and I'm just like, okay... I mean, yeah,
it is more just like weird framing on Mashima's part. Like, what's more important, the emotion of the scene and like the facial expression and the tears, or just like the boobs, sexuality?
Yeah. Right, because like, and I can't say like I wasn't emotionally invested in this in the first place, so I can't say, oh yeah, the boobs ruined it for me, because I was never into it. But it's like, they sure aren't helping.
I don't know, I just think of it like, like Gray has a big character moment later, but it's not like, oh, here's a shot of like his abs or whatever as he's crying or something. Like, I don't know how to make like the equivalent.
Someone made a really good comment on, it was part 3 of my fairy tale series, which was, the sexuality part. And there was a really good comment where like, okay, imagine if like Natsu got it beat up by Gildarts and it like panned down his body and like, oh, his pants were slightly displaced, so you see like the Mashima draws it with the girls with the kind of crotch lines, but on Natsu instead. Like, that would be, would that be distracting or something? Like, that was a good I always remember that example because it was male focused instead of female focused. So but because Mashima doesn't do that, that's exactly the thing. Like, not that great, like, yeah, sure, Gray's an attractive dude, I guess, but like, he doesn't frame the dudes in that way. So like, read more shoujo manga, I guess, if you want to see like males being sexually framed, or I would have to come up with examples, because it's definitely like different visually that when they're framed as more powerful. So
unless we're talking about like, I think there's like the blue Pegasus people who are kind of more framed in that way, yeah. But they're not like main characters, I guess.
Right. And so they're not like they're not like constantly in things like Urza and Lucy and such. So yeah. But anyway, speaking of sexuality, because like we're fucking like 10 chapters in and we've already had 2 bath scenes. Like, I'm just realizing that because this arc started on 1, and now they go into the mixed bathing scene after the whole incident. Though honestly, like, I kind of like part of this because they're just like having a chill conversation. Like, there's an initial like reaction, but then like they just chill out and act like kind of mature and just talk. And again, not that there's no sexual framing, but it's like, I don't know, I didn't mind it as much. Well, it's like they are in the bath, but it's like, still like, I'm just used to it.
Yeah, but, like in this case, it's kind of, I don't know, you even have like the panel like Natsu and Gray, like, oh, I've seen enough of you naked to be sick of it. It gets stale after a while, and it's...
So, yeah, that would have been, it would have been great if Mashima had avoided that during this one scene, if he's going to call attention to it like that. But even though he didn't, it's just like, again, the fact that they're having this just relaxed conversation in a bath without, like, I don't even think there's even anything like sexual, like the, oh, you saw me kind of thing after the first bit. Like, Natsu beats up Urza a bit after washing her back because he gets like heated, but that wasn't explicitly like a sexual like happening, so to speak. Like, they just happened to be naked. So I don't know, it was neat because like I don't see mixed bathing that often, even though I know it's a thing especially in Japan. So like, this is one of the few examples I actually know of. So what did I actually talk about? I forgot. But yeah, no. Oh yeah. Well, Rod explains that he's a founding guild member. Oh, we find out a bit of world building regarding like the 4 gods, the 4 emperors, where it's like, oh, he's like, oh yeah, I don't even have that much fighting strength. The council chose us without even like consulting us. So it's like, because I was thinking about how like Gildarts, like power level wise, would probably be at this level, because like we know he's the strongest in the guild. He's probably stronger than Laxus, who is already, at this level. But the council's probably not going to give modern fairy tale any recognition, so it makes sense as to why Gildarts doesn't like have that role. So that was just the thought I'd had, is like, oh, why not Gildarts? But of course, why not Gildarts? Because he's fucking fairy tale. He causes the most destruction.
Yeah.
So of course they're not going to reward that or recognize it. So even though he is probably on the level, power scaling it comes up inevitably. Oh yeah, so, and that's another thing, because I'm realizing what they're talking about, and they talk about END or End the book, which gets name dropped.
Now that I know like the twist at the end of the arc, I'm just like, oh.
There's so much fucking foreshadowing, Mathwiz. Like, there's been earlier stuff that I've been noticing. Like, I mean, basically since the first thing Zeref said, it was like, oh yeah, Natsu, you're not ready to meet me. So it's like, he's and there's quite a bit.
I mean, like, I guess it does kind of piece it together. Like, why was Zeref so fixated on Natsu? Oh.
Yes. Well, yeah, even right here, it's like, that like Natsu and Warado talk about, like, oh yeah, Ignia couldn't even defeat End, but then later Natsu or Zeref says, like, it's not that he, he was weaker than End, it's that he couldn't do it, and then, he has feelings for Natsu as sort of like basically his son, like, why would he have, so it's like, yeah, so there's, it's implied of what kind of happened there, like, Ignia didn't destroy End, he took him in. So, like, what's going, maybe there'll be more in the future, but, like, that's the implication. So, and there's some surprising little bits of foreshadowing. Like, one I liked is, like, later on there's, like, a montage of Natsu remembering things with Ignia, and there was one where, like, Ignia was teaching Natsu how to read, and the letter they say is E. So it's like, and I thought about it, I'm like, wait, Ignia isn't just teaching Natsu how to read, he's teaching him how to spell his name. So, or something, that was my, I don't even, actually, maybe Natsu doesn't even know his full name, but that was a thought I had, because it's like, that's a very specific letter, because that's, at that point in the story, that's the one letter of Natsu's initials that we don't know. Like, we only know him as Natsu Drignil, and they're reading, and he says E, and I'm like, are you being a sneaky Mashima? So, and
although now that I think about it, like, going back to Rave, like, I guess Mashima does like his strung out plot twist over the course of like an entire narrative, because like he did that with Ellie, like her memories. Like there was a similar sort of like twist, and I guess there's something here with Natsu.
Yeah. Well, with Ellie, it's like, I remember because I felt like it was like rereading it, I was like, wait, this was obvious, but then he like confused it to try and like throw people off, but then he never actually, like the fucking Reisha imprisoned in the fucking weird space-time shit.
Yeah. It's just a red herring.
In this case, it's been like enough that he hasn't needed to do anything like that, because I honestly, like, I mean, maybe I heard the theory did exist before it was revealed, which, it makes sense, like, because some people are like, oh, what if it's ND, like, that it's there, where's the E, what if, Natsu is like, END, and then that turned out to be, it's not a out there theory, especially with all the foreshadowing, so it's like, but at least Mashima didn't feel, oh, this is too obvious, I better throw in a bunch of weird red herrings to make it completely convoluted and stupid. Like, it's just a fine twist, I guess. Like, I don't even remember how, like, it's significant. I know plot bits that happen, but more of, like, the character level, because Natsu's always been, like, not great. Like, honestly, at this point, I would say Natsu's, like, my least favorite of the four mains. Like, Urza, Lucy, and Gray. Like, because, yeah, Gray and Natsu have always been kind of even, but, like, after this arc, Gray had some really good moments. So, I'd put him a little above Natsu now. Not that I dislike Natsu, it's just, he's just, I guess. Anyway, moving on, to the actual start of the arc. The Magic Council is talking. They're discussing Tartaros. They're planning to actually step in and do something about them to crush basically the only dark guild remaining. And then Tartaros destroys the entire Magic Council and kills basically all of the current council except for Doran Volt and maybe Lahar. I forget if they survived. So how did that make you feel?
R.I.P.
Sad. Yes, indeed. That was a perfect response. I'm sorry. But yeah, that pretty. I thought about it, and like, Fairy Tail is really the only guild that actually does something. Like, the fucking Magic Council gets destroyed, and like Fairy Tail's the one going out to. I guess because they had like the ability, like Loki's got the information from the Magic Council relatives that he's been fucking on the side. Or well, maybe if he's so lucky, he at least had relations with them, of some kind. But yeah, we get a bit of a spread with them. We see all their designs. Then we get a moment I actually kind of liked. So Freed and gang are working with Yajima, and Yajima gets attacked because they're going to kill out the rest of the former council members, because they need the key for Face, and there's a whole big fight scene. Laxus comes in. I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast, but I thought about it and I realized, like, after Lucy and Urza, I think Laxus might be my favorite character now after the Grand Magic Games, and I'm like, oh wait, shit. I think also he's just like I really like his design, like aesthetically, like with the big coat. The coat over the shoulders is so cool. It's always cool. And then that happened. But yeah, did you have any thoughts on this scene? Because they fight and he dies and releases like the poison Therano into the air, and it got dark real fast. With just one page.
Yeah, because of all the dark particles that were being spread around. A lot of inking on the page there.
Yeah, true. I walked into that one so hard my nose is broken. Mathwiz broke my nose. Wait, no. But yeah, so, well, because, like, what got me about it is, like, so, Laxus, he makes it, like, see, okay, going into the fucking self-sacrifice thing, because it's like, here it works again. So Laxus, he sucks up as much of the particle as he can to try and save people. And then where it got, like, sad is, like, they're on their, fucking deathbeds, like, trying not to die from anti-magic, and,
Yeah, and then Fried is like, are the townspeople safe? And it's just, like, cut to all the townspeople just, like, dying, and it's like,
fuck.
Yes.
Yeah, like, Makarov lies to him because, like... Oh, yeah, that's what got me about it, because it's just fucking sad. Like, they because, again, it goes into the, like, fruitless self-sacrifice thing, because, for what Laxus did, it's like, there's still lots of death happening. Like, maybe he saved some people, but, like, like, the fatality count is over 100. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, I don't think anything that brutal has happened in Fairy Tail quite yet. Like, Rave had its genocides and stuff. With no number attached to it, but like, I was like, okay, wow, I forgot about that, like, entirely. And again, just the way that they're like hiding it from Fried and them is just sad. Like, oh boy. So I did enjoy, like, I did like that moment because I just didn't expect it at all. Like, I'm not sure if I would say that this arc is lighter or darker necessarily, like, all overall, but that was definitely a bit of a dark moment. Anyway, Fairy Tail is declaring war on Tartaros. Through Loki, they're able to, split up and head to all the other council members. Natsu has a fight against Jackal. Oh yeah, this is the council member who was like a real giant piece of shit. Because he was like he was like, I get that he wanted to not die, but he was just such a whiny bitch about it. I don't know. This was a fight. It happened. Did you have a thought about it beyond that it was a fight and it happened?
Natsu could eat bombs because fire.
Apparently, yes. And there's a really weird, like, with Happy, like, he does the fake death thing and everyone's like sad, and then he comes back before the chapter. Like, he doesn't even use the fake death as a cliffhanger. He just, like, it just happens and he's like, no, Happy's fine, just kidding. Like, okay. I thought the point of the fake death was to be a cliffhanger to maintain interest, but then Happy's fine.
It's a reference to Pell in One Piece, and Mashima's poking fun at Oda for...
You're right, because he flew up, and oh my god, that's hilarious. I never thought about it, like, because, yeah, he flew up with the big bomb, and the big bomb explodes, but no, he's okay. Mathwiz, you cracked the code. Mashima's just ripping off One Piece, but now he's doing it on purpose to make fun of Oda for not killing off his character, even though Mashima does it way more. That's great.
This whole time, Fairy Tail was just a critique of One Piece, and we were too stupid to realize it.
Mashima is truly the best storyteller of our generation. So anyway, everyone else, for the most part, has been failing. Like, some of the council guys have been dead before they even arrive. They're looking for Face, which is yet another super magical thing. Though this one's actually built by the council. So, because I think, like...
Yep,
yeah,
this singular Face.
Yes, the singular Face. Because, like, well, because the Eclipse Doors were made by Zareth. Then, yeah, so was Lullaby, the flute, and then Nirvana was made by the Civilization. So yeah, lots of ancient weapons just floating around. So anyway, Mira Jane and Urza run into Crawford, who's secretly in line with Tartaros. The one demon takes control of Elfman, and then in exchange for information about Tartaros, Doran Bolt frees Raytheon Sace, my favorite antagonists.
Woo!
For some reason, that includes Brain, even though, like, and Cobra immediately just fucking wrecks him. And there's a sequence with them and Jalal. Crawford captures the two girls, because of course he does. Or of course they get captured. I don't know. That leads to...
See, there were a couple of things in this arc, like... When the stuff with Elfman happened, I was like, ooh, Craftsdwarf's favorite, mind control.
And then you go a few pages and you see Urza in chains and you're like, oh no. Or at least that's what I am, because there I am. I'm gonna go. Because I already talked about this on the tirade, and I mentioned, we've also talked about it a little bit in private, but like, I've never liked this moment. Because it's like, yeah, it's like, here you have Urza, a character who, like, a former slave whose, vulnerability has kind of been like a point. Like, that was a big part of her conflict back in the Tower of Heaven.
And like, even like after the fact, like there is like she has a moment like after the arc is over where she's just like, I didn't want that memory brought back up or whatever. Like,
yeah. And like exploring that would have been fine, but like, why the sexual framing? Because like, he's showing as much of her body as possible. And I don't care. Like, see, because it's like this, and again, like you brought it up, because I think I even mentioned it in the Rave Master part of the tirade. Mashima's already done this, but more effectively in having a vulnerable female character being tortured and actually making it brutal. Because like, we both reacted, positively to that, in that, like, we thought it was effective, where it's like, it was Nagisa and she's got the fucking fingernails missing, and Mashima's already done this.
Yeah, there's no tonal juxtaposition there, because, like, anything that would be, like, it's, like, all cast in shadow, so there's nothing, like, sexualized about it. It's just, like, you get the rage reaction, because, like, how could anyone do this? And then you get the stuff with Musica, just going apeshit.
Right, so, and it feels cathartic because you're like, well, fuck Branch for doing this, fuck the guy who's for forcing that to happen, and so you want Musica to beat the fucking shit out of everybody, and he does, and it's effective. But here it's like, so Urza's, like, the torture isn't even really brutal, because it's like, it's like, oh, I'm just increasing your pain sensitivity, so it's like, you feel it, but it's like, now it's beyond the point of, like, I guess you've kind of talked about this, or I feel like,
yeah, like so like with the rave moment, like there was a lot of like detail on like the individual little like the damage, torture, I guess the damage was more like detailed and drawn out and stuff, whereas like here it's just like some scratches.
Yeah, and it's pure. The damage is purely like mental, and how does Mashima? Like, Mashima doesn't even do anything exceptional to try and get that across. Like, there's one time where he, during the fight, where like you see Urza, it looks like her whole, like, half of her body was ripped off, but that's not normal. Like, like if he really wanted to do something, like, I don't know, he would have to draw something brutal, but he never does. He never, like, he mostly focuses on the sexual framing, which doesn't get across any of the actual torture. So it's like, it's not good. I don't like it. So especially like I like it less because I like Urza now, and so here's the go on.
Yeah, so like it's a problematic scene, but it's also just like really bad at portraying the emotions I think it was going for. Because like here's another part that really bothers me, because he does use the dramatic lighting, like with the shading that he used before with in Rave, but it's on just this nothing panel of Lisana, and
right,
it's like
she's stuck with Natsu in the
why?
cell, right, because it's And then there's also like dumb shit where it's like, oh, he specifically has Urza be guarded by like tentacle monsters that never show up ever again or anything like it. So but Kyoka's like, don't do anything to her. We wouldn't want to have a Dojin on our hands. Like, why? I don't. Stop it, Mashima. No.
My only like takeaway from this, because it's something that like the character responsible for this like has little lines of dialogue later that like keep referencing back to this. So I'm like, is this just a character trait? Like, but then why? What does it? I don't know.
There's like, cause Mard Gear like calls Kyoka out on it for like treating a human with so much like attention, and then Urza of course has the stuff with Jalal, but it's like, I don't know. It's like I said, not like it's not just like this moment that is, makes me like towards Urza's handling this arc, but it's just like there's not enough of it for me to connect to the actual ideas of the arc. So it's like what's there isn't a lot, and then it's also underpinned with this whole issue that I've been bitching about for the last like several years if you count the tirade. I was definitely mentioning this moment back in Rave, because I was talking about how like sexualizing vulnerability versus sexualizing empowerment, where I was talking about like Julia and Nami and how these are characters who, take charge of their sexuality. So it's like, yeah, they're framed sexually, but that's because they want to be in control, and they are in control. Whereas here you're sexualizing the vulnerability. And I don't know, like I need to do more research into it, like, as far as if I was actually going to talk about it in, like, a video. Like, I know Pedantic Romantic, I might have mentioned this before, she did her video on High School of the Dead, where she was talking about how, like, the first and the last episodes, when the character is vulnerable, like, in danger, they're also, like, vulnerable sexually. So, and I don't remember if she was necessarily saying that was bad or good. I think she was just bringing up as, like, oh, like, it's another way to show the characters as vulnerable or something like that. I'd have to rewatch that video. This was a years ago video, and she might not even agree with it anymore. I don't know. But it's like, I don't know. I don't really care for it personally. So, yeah, I don't like it. It's bad. That's it. That's the end of it. I've already bitched about this enough, like I said. So, but anyway, Natsu comes in. He gets defeated easily, by, Silver. And yeah, here's Lasana with, like you said, the dramatic, the lighting to hide all of her body. And
like Lisana does have a line of dialogue just like speculating, oh, what are these villains trying to, what's the purpose of this? So like, I guess there's an idea here of like, treating them like less than animals or whatever, because like, oh, the demons are above humans, but
I guess, but yeah, because that's not even like or at least I guess that's an idea, but it's not even like the big like human demon dichotomy that I picked up on, that Urza basically all but states like in a few chapters when she gets freed. But anyway, they are stuck there for a bit. Jalal's fighting Eration Seis because Eration Seis, they expect that they're going to be captured again.
Oh, that's right. Another thing that bothered me about that scene was that, like, it was, oh, she's trying to get information out of Urza about Jalal because they need to kill Jalal to release the restraints on Face or whatever. But then they don't even need to kill Jalal. They just, like, MacGuffin it away from him. That's not how you use the word. I don't care. They just, like, steal it away from him. And it's like,
right.
So the scene was pointless. Except,
so yeah, Jalal's like pretty much irrelevant to the rest of the arc, and even though he's a council member, and then Altair is technically alive, and I guess they think she's dead, but I guess she didn't have any of the keys, so they lucked out. But I didn't even think about that, because Altair was on the council too, right next to Jalal. So yeah, but she's just really old, but she's alive. But anyway, so Eration Seis, they don't want to be, it kind of ties back to the Tower of Heaven thing where they want to be free, and Jalal, he's trying to recruit them, but he wants them to be free from Zeref, and all of them, because that shadow has affected all of them, so he wants to, and that comes in later, I guess. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the, Tartaros' base, the weird cube, because you messaged me about, oh, this looks like a moving vehicle, then it turns out it's actually a giant monster.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why Natsu and everyone's able to, like, move freely on it because it's not a vehicle, it's an animal. Yeah, it's so arbitrary, but it's like, okay, I guess it works. Fine, you win this round, Mashima. Because I have never thought about this as like one of those little nitpicky plot holes of just like, but how can Natsu move on a? Though it would have been so dumb, but also maybe funny if he had a moment where it was like, oh my god, I'm on a moving vehicle, but the moving vehicle was revealed to be an animal, and then suddenly he's fine. Yeah. Like, that would have been so stupid. I don't think anything like that happens. But anyway, so Elfman comes into the guild. He's gonna blow it up. See, I think I complained about this moment in the tirade because it's like
only one person is suspicious of him, you know, because like his entire character trait is like, I will protect my family, and then he's like, yeah, I just left.
True. Well, see, because like I guess like how I saw it is like I just said that word like 4 times. But anyway, because you know he's like he's going to blow up the guild, his guild family for the sake of his blood family. So he's kind of like
he's prioritizing the blood, but you're supposed to go beyond blood.
Right, exactly, right. But and so that it doesn't work out for him. So, but he's mind controlled anyway. So it's like, is there meaningful character action here? But
yeah, it's another one of those like he feels bad about it later, but the characters are like, well, no, that wasn't you, and it's like you're right. Right. I'm gonna go fight. There's just nowhere to. There's not a character arc here. There's no.
That's the weird part because like there is a good like opportunity for that because it's just like because you have the that Beyond Blood theme here and like the events work perfectly for the idea, but the mind control just remove the character arc from it. So it's like not even like a conscious decision of Elfman, like that he's like, oh, I'm going to like sacrifice my guild for my blood family, but instead like. Anyway.
And that's kind of like a complaint I had made about Jalal before, because like he, you know, with the mind control, there's not a ton of room for a character arc there, because some of it is just kind of waved away. I mean, with like Jalal, maybe it's handled a bit better, because Jalal is still doing stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where Elfman like doesn't even get a moment after that. He just like ends up trapped in like he doesn't get a fight. I don't think he gets a fight or anything. Like Mira Jane does, but yeah, Elfman is not a character who gets a fight. So it's like there's not any real follow up to this. So I will say, as far as the Natsu Lisana thing goes, there is one panel I like because of Lisana's expression, where she's like telling Natsu not to look at her, and then he like turns his head, and she's just got, I don't know, she's got like the sharp teeth, and she's like angry but also embarrassed. I don't know, I just like that expression. It's funny.
See, I feel like that. Never mind. I'm not going back to that topic.
Okay, that's fair.
But in like one of the cutaways to the guild, there was a little moment, like not in the background of one of the panels, but like in a panel with a lot of characters where like the guild was trying to figure out where to go next, and because like Natsu had just like gone to the cube, and they were trying to figure out where everybody was, and Gajil's like, oh well, I can't track down their scent if Wendy couldn't track down their scent, and she's like apologizing, and he's just like, he like puts his hand on her head and is just like patting her head, which is just like, I don't know, it's like tough guy Gajil, but he's like consoling Wendy in like just this, and he does it later too, like which is
I actually never noticed that, but it's because he is the tough guy, but he does have a soft spot. Like he really wanted a cat, and when he found Panther, he was like, my cat.
Yes.
Like Gajil's a good boy. I hadn't thought about it like that with the tough guy liking cute things. Or appreciate like head patting Wendy and being well, he did that during Adolis too, when she was like trying to be scary, like the scary
that's right Lord.
And Gajil like came up behind her and like did the intimidating face and scared the child, and like so I hadn't thought about that. He's always been like this protective big brother. See, that's actually pretty cool, because it's like they've never had like major interactions, but they do have this very small little like big brother little sister relation thing as like Dragon Slayers. I never thought about that. That's good and cute. And yeah, I do like how it's in the background like that, because like with so many characters, like how do you have like big interactions with all of them? Like pair up each and every one. Like that's a lot. But having these little things you're able to do that in the background. So it's like, yeah, Gajil and Wendy have never had like major moments together as just like the two of them, but they have enough small moments that you like get a sense for their relationship, and it's good. This is good. I didn't think about that.
There was another moment later, which I'm only bringing up. I'm going out of order, but I'm bringing it up now so I don't forget it. Where like Gajeel and Natsu like have a bet against each other, and then Gajeel is like, "Oh, Salamander, you owe me a song." And then like the next chapter cover is like Natsu with like a guitar and a microphone, and everything's on fire and stuff, which I just thought was kind of cool.
That's good. That's good.
There was another chapter cover, which it looks like it was a full color chapter that would have, but obviously the manga volumes don't have that.
Right.
But it's like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but it's like Lucy and various fairy tale characters. So there were some cute cover chapters or covered art, chapter covers. There we go.
Cover pages.
That's what I wanted.
But yeah. So anyway, Jalal recruits Oration Seis. Well, Oration Cinco, because Brain is not involved. I did think it was kind of weird because it's like, because Oration Seis and Grimoire Heart were the two other of the three guilds in the alliance, and he took most of Oration Seis, but like one member out of Grimoire Heart. So he still has, so it still becomes 6 in a way, but he's there. But they don't, no Tartaros representation. They're all shit and evil. So nope. But anyway, the councilman, he takes the ownership of Jalal's key, and then Kyoka kills him because, we could just do this, because they're evil and they don't care about humans. So nice going, idiot. I forgot about, I see I did it again. Like this happened when I was reading and now it's happening again as I flip through the pages. Lummy, the stupid bunny demon, she's just like a meme face machine.
Yeah.
So I figured, like, because you mentioned that before, so you probably at least appreciated that aspect of this character, because that's like 90% of what she does is she just makes stupid fucking faces. And I've always liked that.
There's that one, that one particular like super serious face she does, which just makes me think of JoJo.
That might be a direct reference. I don't know, because it doesn't like specifically look like a JoJo face that I can think of, but just like something about the style like makes me think of it too as well. Like you haven't even read this or watched the series, and yet you're still feeling that. So I understand. Like I guess JoJo is such a, it's recognizable. So maybe that's it. So yeah, I don't disagree, is what I'm saying. But anyway, Lummy comes in. Minerva has a demon form now. The Fairy Tale Guild gets destroyed again. Like
we just rebuilt that thing,
right? That's what I was gonna say. Is like they've had it for a grand total of like fucking a few days, and it's like nope, there it's gone. But yeah, Kana was able to save everyone, and they could restage their attack. Like it's kind of like everything's at the lowest and it's the worst, but then it like instantly flips around, because at the same time, Mira Jane has taken over the fucking demon pods because she has demon powers, and Natsu and Lisana got freed, Urza got freed, like just everything got swapped around. So
what do you mean they got freed? Freed isn't in this arc.
Yeah, he's dying on a deathbed from anti-magic poison. Right. But yeah, the guild starts fighting. We get the Elfman moment we talked about earlier. Urza strong. Because it's Urza. I saw you posted that, gave me that panel, and I'm like, Mathwiz must have liked that moment.
That moment was the true ending of Fairy Tale.
So there's also a bit where Zareth comes in. He just stops time, and he's like, sup, Natsu? How's it going? But he tells Natsu, it's up to Natsu whether he can kill or let End live, which is cryptic, and especially now that we know that he's talking to End about End. So yeah, this does come up later. I'm
there was
sketchy on the details. So
now that I think about it, though, there is like an interesting twist. Because obviously Ignia is like, don't destroy End, and then Gray is like, no, I'm gonna destroy End. Which now it's like,
Yes, like, well, yeah, it's like Natsu's supposed to get the book, but Gray wants to destroy it. So, and now Natsu is End, so Gray wants to just, indeed. And that also, that's right. That also ties into like one of the whole big conflicts. 'Cause like you kind of have this whole thing with sort of, I guess, purpose, and especially like what I've been noticing is like purpose of the maker. So like, because the Tartaros demons, they are completely consumed by their desires, like what they believe Zeref made them for. They want to be with Zeref, and then it turns out that they want to kill Zeref, or that's what their purpose is, to find Zeref and kill him, because Zeref wants to die, basically, and that's why he created them in the first place. So they have that purpose, but humans have no specific purpose, but they, like Urza even says while fighting Kyoka, like they're supposed to find their own. And so you have that idea sort of going through. And I think, and then that ties into how the arc ends, where Natsu and Gray are both like, they're driven by the purpose given to them by their father figures, basically. So, which is something to consider going into the final arcs. And I think I noticed some other things. Because there were some neat little details that tied into that. But yeah, the fights start, everyone divides into their fights, because, of course, I guess the first one is Natsu and Lucy versus the one round guy who can suck up the souls. Did you have any thoughts on that fight?
I mean, there was the neat little trick where Lucy was recalling her spirits, and then she's like, Natsu. But then, it's a fake out, and then Natsu just beats the guy up.
No, yeah, I did that. It was good to see them working together really well and stuff. Like, they've always been doing that. Like, they get a team up fight maybe every arc, or quite a bit, for sure, at least. Which is always nice. There was also a bit that was like similar enough, but also different enough similar enough that I noticed, but different enough that I was fine with it. But it's like, Natsu, or no, the demon guy, he did the Mr. 2 thing where he turned into like Ares and Natsu couldn't hurt him, but then he turned into Tartaros and Natsu did hurt him, just like Sanji, he couldn't hurt Nami, but he could hurt Usopp, but it was like inverted, and I guess the reasons were different, like with Taurus, Natsu was like glad to almost like I can hit him, like, and I was glad for it because Taurus is like his only character trait is that he's a pervert, so I'm like, yeah,
and he's useless. Like, he's supposedly one of I was about to say Nami. He's supposedly one of Lucy's like stronger spirits, but every time he shows up, he just gets like one shot, and it's like, okay, you're pretty much like and I mentioned that with Virgo too. It's like there's like the spirits she has that just get like joked, and like Cancer is like her most useful spirit because I think he's been useful every single time, and his power is like hair manipulation and cutting, and it's like he's also Lucy's most useful spirit. I never thought about that. But yeah, he also turns into Hades, and Natsu is able to like which is kind of neat because like Hades was really strong, but Natsu's stronger, but now he's fighting alone. So, oh, that's right. Wendy also goes on her own to take care of Face, which I bring up because there's a really cute part where there's like a bunch of bugs and she's just like terrified and she's adorable. Like she's like a dragon slayer, but she like after this she fucking fights toe to toe with a fucking demon and actually like manages it and uses dragon force. But before that, it's like no bugs. So because she's a little girl, I guess, I don't know. Bugs are scary. But yeah, this was fine character moment stuff for her, I guess. Dragon Force is cool when it looks cool. And then she wins. Like, she beats one of the Tartaros demons, like, single-handedly, pretty much. Like, that's something. I think my only, like, complaint with this moment is just more, like, just generally how Face is handled in this arc. Because first, like, we have to destroy it once, and then Wendy does it, but then it's like, but it doesn't matter because we have another way to. There are over 2,000 other faces out there, but we just got to destroy the one guy who's controlling it. Oh wait, actually no, because there's another guy who could control the guy who is controlling the faces. But then even when you beat that person, it's like, oh no, we have another way to make it so that this other character can sacrifice their life to control the. Well, see, it's like because it's kind of similar back with the Eclipse doors, where it's like with the time travel, where it's like, first in the first timeline they wanted to open up the doors so they can go back in time to kill Zeref. But instead, they just summoned the dragons. So Lucy went back to stop the dragons, but instead, Aknologia took over the world.
and so Rogue went back in time to control the dragon so they could defeat Acto. And so it's like, and now it's like convoluted because it's like, yeah, it's just like, oh, it's like this, but it's actually like this, just to kind of keep the tension going. So I don't think it's like as convoluted as the like Eclipse Gate thing was. It kind of makes sense. Like looking back, with this, it's just like, oh, it was like this, but actually like this, and then the dragon was inside of you the whole time, and then. Yeah, I went there.
The real Ignia were the friends we made along the way.
Oh yeah, and well, even before we get to that, like as far as Faces handled, there's like this big moment with Carla and Wendy where it's like Carla's gonna self-sacrifice herself, but Wendy's like,
as soon as like Mashima started playing this up all dramatic, like I'm like she's gonna live, like
yeah, of course. And there's tears, and it's like it's just like the happy one earlier where he doesn't even like leave it as a cliffhanger. Like there's 2 pages of destruction, and then Doran Bolt's like saved, and it's like, okay, not even gonna try, and like let it set in. Are you? He's just giving up. He's like he's keeping the fake deaths, but he's removing the purpose for them. So it's like I don't even know why do the fake death? Because tension and drama. I don't know.
It's weird because like he will do the end of chapter cliffhangers, but then you have a moment like this where it's like so obviously like it would work as a cliffhanger, but no.
Yeah, it's Oh, I forgot about that with because the trick with Lucy desummoning her spirits and then pretending to desummon Natsu. With I also really like how like. Oh my god, it happens again. Like, it's just repeating ideas at the same, because, like, Lucy's able to de-summon her spirits that she's supposedly, that's her magic, but she's able, by releasing them, she's able to come up with outsmart her enemy. And Natsu isn't able to use magic on the demon, but now we're going back to the fucking mercenaries, where they're like, oh, you magicians keep relying on magic. So Natsu just pulls a big fucking rock out of the ground, and he like fucking Looney Tunes him to like just smashes it with a button. It's this big cool like 2-page spread, but it's also stupid and funny because Natsu's got like a dumb expression, and he's just ultimately just crushing him with a rock. So I did like that. And Hades gives him a little tip before his soul departs. Okay. Okay, right after that we get like a funny moment because the demon's like, haha, we're immortal, you can't beat us. And then Lummy's like, oh look, this is our respawn point, we're immortal. And Mira Jane's like, okay, and she just fucking destroys everything. And it's like, how could this happen? It's like, you just you just explained it. What did you think was going to happen? We also get the Mira Jane backstory where, like, she apparently fought a demon, and got demon powers, and they were sort of, like, expelled because of her monstrousness. But then her siblings picked up their transformation magic to make her, so it wasn't alone. It's kind of cute.
Although that like backstory flashback, like maybe it's more just because it's as far into the series as we are now, but it does make it kind of strange that like Elfman is the only one who couldn't do, like, he only had this like partial transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like,
well, because like, I don't know, because he was working at it for a while, but I guess it's still like it took him years. I don't know. He's just bad at it. But yeah, the fight ultimately ends because like Mira Jane's able to take. She's sort of like, because she takes demon's powers, so she took the power from her enemy and was able to control Elfman and get him to arrive and finish the battle. So I guess that is like, protect his sister. So, like you said, no real character arc from the whole conflict. And I guess like I did have an interesting observation regarding this fight and the overall like theme of the arc, where it's like, I don't even remember her name, like, because the demons all have weird names that I don't remember except for like Mardgeir and Kyoka. But anyway, so this one, like, she enforces her will onto others, and which kind of matches how she is, like, she has, she was made by Zareth, and that is the will, like, she takes as, forced onto her. Like, that's, do what Zareth made us to do. So she forces others to do what she wants them to do. Whereas Mira Jane, like, she became this sort of demon-touched monster person, and the world sort of had an expectation, of that, oh, you're a monster, so they kicked him out. And, she was about to run away from the guild because, she didn't want to, be what the world expected of her. But she, as a human, she was able to, like, and again, through friendship and connection with others, she sort of, like, took that and made it her own. And then she's, like, that's her powers in general, is taking these demon powers and making them those abilities her own because she's human. So, I guess, I don't know, it was neat. There's some good moments later that I'll talk about, though. So anyway, Mardgeir just hits the fucking reset button. Like, because I guess, like, his whole thing is, you were mentioning, like, oh, they're dehumanizing him by taking away their clothes or something, maybe. But, like, here we get Mardgeir talking about them as insects, like, and he just fucking just takes them all out in one shot, pretty much, except for Lucy, who just happens to make it out because no reason given, she just does. I mean, it leads to a good moment for her, but it's like, whatever. How did you think about this whole Luffy segment? Because I thought it was good.
I'm sorry, Luffy?
Lucy. I said Lucy.
Oh, it sounded... Okay, maybe just through Discord, it sounded like you said Luffy.
Well, luckily it was recorded, so... You're like, wait, are we talking about One Piece again? Are we talking about something I'm invested in? Like, please, let's not... No more fairy tale.
No, I thought...
We're actually...
I thought this moment was cool, but, like, I don't know, there were weird aspects of it, like... There's a part where she summons 3 spirits at once, and it's like, wow, This is such a big thing for her, but it doesn't amount to anything until, she needs another surge of power to really, I don't know.
Well, I mean, when she did summon the spirits, like, you have the fucking blood in her wounds is, like, shooting out of her body, like, it's putting so much strain on her, like, that was like, no, Lucy, you're trying so hard. But yeah, I did like the Aquarius, well, because, like, it was so... I liked it because, not only is she, like... she's basically, like, the strongest celestial spirit mage that we know of, because no other one has... Like, so few of them have been able to summon 2 spirits. Angel was able to. She's summoned 3, and she's still going. And then, so, like... Well, because Aquarius is, like, trusting her. Like, she says, like... I think she even says that, like, to summon the Spirit King... we have to be able to trust each other, and Aquarius has been with Lucy the longest. And I think it's interesting because I brought up before is how, like, Aquarius didn't like Lucy. Like, even now that she still doesn't really care for her, but, like, the whole, part of the reason was maybe like, oh yeah, Lucy only relies on her celestial spirits and she's not strong herself. And what better way to show that, like, she's changed and become strong in that, like, she has to give up, like, not just one of her golden keys, but literally her strongest one. Like, Aquarius has always been her trump card, pretty much. And so, to show that she's able to, like, not she doesn't rely on her power, she has to sacrifice that key. So I was like, oh, that's good. And then, yeah, that's how the Celestial Spirit King gets summoned, and he's like, yeah, she's getting more power, but it's only temporary, and she knew that, like, it's not going to last, and that's kind of a cool bit where he just fucking comes in and starts wrecking shit. So I like this. Lucy good. This moment was good. Like, he has a line where it's like, we revoke your right to exist, and it's like, that sounds stupid, but it's also cool. Fuck it, I don't care. I don't know, I had fun during this part. It's just another good moment for Lucy's arc, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was good, I guess. It was a good character beat. I mean, like, Lucy getting to do something is nice.
Well, yeah, because it's like, it's weird, because last time was a downer for Lucy, but Urza had really cool, like, the pandemonium moment was just fucking cool. And then this arc, Urza had the meh moments, but Lucy has some cool stuff going on. So,
well, great. I don't know, because Urza does get the moment later where all her senses are deprived, and yet she's still able to fight because it's Urza. So, Urza still gets something to do here.
I mean, yeah, but I don't... we'll talk about it. Fine. Jeez.
But then, like, no. At the same time in this moment, and yes, I'm going back to this because Mashima, stop. I wouldn't have to keep bringing it up if Mashima didn't keep bringing it up. But like, there's the moment right before I think she does her big summoning of the king, where like it's like 3-on-1, and then the one guy just walks off, and then like the rabbit girl is just like, oh, look at her giant boobs. Why not blow those off her chest? And it's like,
oh, yeah,
why?
that's right.
Why? It doesn't.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's just Mashima. Stop. Why? No. Bad. Just like every time he like starts to draw something like that, he just like whip his hands or something like that, and like no, and go back to it. He just picks up his pen again, and goes back to it, and he's like, no, stop. Just
like that is the unfortunate sort of duality, or duality, if I even want to use a term like that.
The duality of man.
But that's
storytelling or boobs.
It's Lucy's character arc. It's like storytelling with
or boobs.
Yeah.
Shit, I was joking, but it's actually true. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
It's like I want to like Lucy's character arc because there are interesting things here, but then there's also just so much. She is the character who gets like sexualized in vulnerable ways, and it's just
yeah. Like the Urza bit was really bad, but Lucy hasn't had a single instance that's bad, but it's been so consistent and annoying. It's like
earlier in the series, we were kind of like able to. Because there were certain ways she would like use her sexual, like she would try to use it in certain ways, but then like now more like she hasn't really had those moments to like, I don't know, like take ownership or like be in control. Like it's always more.
That's so good. Yes. Because I guess like how it would have made sense is that where it's like if you're gonna have her be vulnerable for her sexuality that she's trying to weaponize, then it's like. And if her whole arc is relying on things that aren't necessarily her own power, then the reasonable outcome is for her to be able to take charge of her sexuality and have enough power to back it up and not be vulnerable for it. Like more like Urza, who is able to be sexual. Like she doesn't really use it. Well, she kind of does. Like I remember as a waitress, she was like making poses on tables and stuff. But she's never, except for in this arc, she's never been made vulnerable for that sex.
I just think more back to like the Julia. Again, it's another thing that I feel like Mashima handled better in Rave. Because like Julia had that one fight where like it's not the most tasteful, but like she's in control and she's like
right.
There was the quote I liked where she's like, just because I have a nice butt doesn't mean I can't kick yours. Which I don't know. It was fun and goofy and stuff.
It's a fun line, right? And but because like if you're gonna do that with Lucy Mashima, you where, why, when is that gonna happen? Because it's just her sexuality is just a point of vulnerability, even though she's gotten so much stronger. And because thinking back to Urza, it's like there's points where she's vulnerable, but I don't think she's ever been like sexually vulnerable. Except the closest I could think of was when Jalal grabbed her breasts, but that was like, oh, she likes him, so it doesn't even matter.
It's so weird because like we kind of talked earlier about like memeing about how Kishimoto isn't great with writing female characters, but like at least Kishimoto does like, so Mashima is better and worse in that like he writes better female characters, but also feels the need to like
yes, with the sexual stuff he treats them worse, whereas Kishimoto basically has like very little female sexuality in his works, but he's also not good with the female characters just in general. So it's weird. But anyway, the Celestial Spirit King kind of gives her a little boost because she's out, and she she uses that that cool spell. Like she doesn't even need to summon Gemini to do it since she has the boost, so she just does it, and it's kind of cool. And then that's basically like she's just passes the fuck out. But the Celestial Spirit King's able, he has a fight with Mard Gear, and he's able to free all the Fairy Tail members. Natsu has a little bit where he's like, I don't know what you did, but you saved us, Lucy. So that's Natsu, being cool, acknowledging Lucy. Then they go out into the final fights, I guess. The final batch of fights. Hold on, let me check something real quick. Okay, so Wendy has a little character moment, where she's...
she gets her character development haircut.
Maybe it hasn't happened this stretch of chapters, but I thought it did. Whatever, it's not a major spoiler anyway. Cancer makes her hair grow back anyway.
Yeah, that happened at the very end.
Okay, that did happen. I was like, because it's just so...
Yeah, because like my thought about it was like, okay, on the one hand, character development haircut. I see what you're doing, Mashima. On the other, that was one of her most distinguishing features. And so now, like,
Yeah.
I like last episode, I think I talked about how sometimes I feel like some of his characters get kind of same-facey. And so, like, with Wendy with the short hair, granted, it's like a different hair color, so it's like, obviously that's Wendy. But it's, you know, it would have made her less distinct.
True.
So maybe that's why he had her... Because I think it's like shortly after,
Maybe,
like she meets up with Lucy, and Lucy's like, "Oh yeah, you know, I have a spirit who can, you know, magic your hair back or whatever." Or no, maybe he mentioned it in the afterward sort of corner thing.
Okay, I might have missed that one.
Because I think I remember there
tried to
being
read
something in
afterwards,
there, like, "Oh, there's magic to," or something. I forget exactly how it was.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but yeah, like you said, she gets the character development, and she's like, I'm not gonna cry or whine anymore, and you know she's gonna fight and stuff, whatever. And then, but then that's basically it for the arc. So, oh well.
Hopefully, there's more to build off of that in future arcs.
Yep. So anyway, we get a little Minerva flashback, which kind of like what.
Minerva.
What are you laughing?
I have...
Well, because, like, this is another, like, because I was talking about earlier, like, the Mira Jane flashback, you know, like, because I tied it to the ideas of the arc, but he had it in mind for a while, and it happens the same way with the gray and silver stuff. So here you have Minerva tying, like, this Minerva idea ties into both, like, the ideas of this arc and also the Grand Magic Games, because you have her father being a shitbag, and, you know, but making her only care about power. So it's like she's trying to follow that will of, you know, her creator, basically. And that's why she fell into being a demon, to get more power, basically. And yeah, so it fits, I guess, is what I had to say. But she wants to die, so I guess that means that she's redeemed from all the... Because I'm trying to think of, like, what exactly... Because she didn't kill Lecter, she bullied the shit out of Lucy. Oh, Kagura and Minerva, she hurt them a lot. So it's like, yeah, she did. Those were the big evil things she did.
Yeah. I think it's also just kind of like, it makes sense. But, you know, just thinking back to that moment where, like, you know, Sting did kill her father, and she was just like, she looked all sinister, like, oh yes, the guild is mine now. But then here it's like, actually, oh, there was like there was more of a relationship there that wasn't dwelled into yet, and I don't know, but it's just like Mashima doing his patented like evil villain faces, which I don't know. But then it's like the people with like the evil faces, but they're good. Mm.
Yeah, and she just gets redeemed, and it's like, okay, sure, because like at least, like I said, at least she didn't do. I mean, I guess it's like she didn't do anything to these guys, so these guys can more easily forgive her. But then also I question, like, what even happened to Sabretooth? Okay, see, I was wrong. The father did not die, the Guildmaster, because he went to Tartaros and became a demon, because...
Wait, so wouldn't he... Okay, never mind. I'm thinking of the other guy, because I was like, does that mean that he did die and then they brought him back? But no, they didn't specify that like they did with Silver.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Silver was, he was, the whole different case, but yeah, I think the Guildmaster, like, he just, like, got really hurt and didn't die. I thought he died. I swear he died. But then he didn't. So I was like, okay. It wasn't even a death fake out. Like, was it? He just, it was, I don't know. I'm confused and lost. Help. Oh, yeah, but that's right. There's the 3,000 faces. Because, like, yeah, we already talked about that, where it's just like, oh, no, it's like this. Oh, no, it's like this. Oh, that's what I was going to say, is because I guess, like, I have no idea who the Sabretooth Guildmaster is, because, like, it wasn't Minerva, because she left and joined Succubus Eye, and then the Guildmaster doesn't seem to have become a demon, so it's like, I don't know. It's just a question I've been wondering about. So, moving on to the final fights, did you have any thoughts on Gray versus Silver? Because this was probably my favorite moment of the arc.
It was fine. It was good. I thought, like, I expected this to be like, oh, this is the best moment in the arc, and but it was kind of just like, I was okay with it. Like, it didn't.
Okay.
I don't know.
Blow you away, but it didn't offend either, which I guess is all, like what you. It didn't offend me. That's probably the best you can ask for when it comes to Mashima. but no, I just thought it was like really good stuff for Gray.
No, yeah, it is nice to see Gray get more to do.
Yeah, well, because like Gray has always been like you know, like I said, Lucy, Urza, you know, Gap, and then Natsu and Gray kind of more or less even. But this moment pushed Gray a little bit ahead for me, or this fight, because like. I mean, reading the bad translation hindered me on it before because it's like it is a little convoluted. But Silver, you know, he died at the hands of Deloria. He got revived by the Necromancer, and then he was, you know, he's been plotting against Tartaros the whole time. You know, he learned the Ice Devil Slayer, the Demon Slayer magic, and then you know, he just never got the opportunity to really act. Well, because like I guess what's also interesting about that revival thing is like. You know, the Necromancer even talked about how, like, he was interested in Silver because of how he was the most human of all the people he revived. And that was because he was the one who gave himself a purpose. Like, you know, it was vengeance, but, and though there was also the, like, family stuff there. But, you know, he was the most human of the revived people because he, you know, again, like, that's the whole thing. That humans find their own purpose. Like, that's kind of what he was talking about with Gray, is where, you know, Gray was, you know, he wants to protect his guild, so, like, he was about to kill Silver, but then he also doesn't want to kill his dad. And so Silver said that's part of being human, too. Like, Gray has, you know, all of these desires and stuff. I don't know, the fight itself was, like, fine, I guess. Like, there was all the fucking ice shell fake-outs and stuff, like, fucking clones, and like, we talked about the illusions back with Sasuke and Itachi, I think, where it's just, like, because it just kept happening, and then he, and again, I do, again, the creative solution with having to use physical attacks with the Iron Ball instead of magic ones, because ice doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, after that, because Gray has always been, like, to go back to Leon, is, like, Leon's the character who tried to move past his grief the fastest, but, you know, he was still, like, he was going so fast, he was, like, throwing away everything that, you know, like all his teachings from and stuff. Or Gray has been advancing slowly, but he has been advancing, and so it's, like, here you just, like, what got to me, I guess, was that, you know, that's still advancing slowness, because it's, like, yeah, he's still not able, you know, he's, like, after he couldn't kill his dad, and they hug, and he's like, can we stay like this for a little while longer? That's when it got to me, and I cried a little bit, and I didn't expect that at all.
I mean, yeah, it's a good character moment for him. It's cool.
Yes. Because, like, yeah, he still hasn't, like, fully moved on. Like, later on, it's, like, with Juvia, he cries in her arms and stuff, like, after the arc. So that's the thing. He's still steadily moving. And I don't know, something about that got to me.
I'm not sure if, like, the relationship that's being, like, built with Gray and Juvia, I'm not sure if it's, like, inconsistent and bad, or if it's like, oh, this is a really clever way to display, like, the complex inner workings of human emotion, because, like, you know, Gray is like, you know, I don't know, it seems like Gray isn't interested, and, like, Gray was going to reject her, but he doesn't. He keeps hanging on for some reason, and maybe that connects with, like, his slow progressing through his grief over and his family and Deliora and stuff.
That is more that you've just read as a possibility than I have read into the entirety of their relationship ever. Like, and I'm the fairy tale apologist, so.
But I think, to me, like, the most interesting part of this battle with Gray and Silver was not the battle itself. It was the afterward, where Mashima's like, oh yeah, I had this planned way in advance up until I was about to start drawing, and I realized something vital in the setup was wrong, so I had to basically rework everything mid-stride. Which makes me wonder, like, is that why there was the Necromancer who was like, oh, I predict that this human will go the way of Actually, never mind. It'll be decided by human emotion.
Maybe. Yeah, because, like, I'm wondering where they fucked it. Because, like, it's more or less, it seems pretty, like, fine as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I don't know what it was like. At least, like, because, again, I thought it was kind of, because he was pretending to be Deloria, so maybe he was actually Deloria at one point in the plans, but then, like, he obviously wasn't, so it's, like...
It makes you wonder, because, like, with the setup earlier of, like, the moon drip and, you know, so maybe that was the original plan? Because it is kind of weird that he's like, oh, I'm Deliora, but it's more just as, like, a, you know... Yeah. Give Gray the motivation to actually kill his father.
Yeah.
Even though his father was already dead.
Pushed, you know, Gray past his grief. Like, because Gray had to, like, overcome Deloria by
Yeah.
defeating his dad as Deloria, basically. So it's like, there's stuff there, but there's also the kind of like, no, it was actually like whenever the character does that, like it was the same back in the Grand Magic Games with the princess, where it's like, oh no, it was like this, but actually it was like this. Like you could just hear Mashima like scribbling as he's like changing his plans, like fuck. But yeah, so like it seems to make sense more or less. So when again the bad translation might have reading my notes didn't for me. It's like I guess there was a bit for Juvia did get a moment because it's like I forget. Yeah, I don't think she had a moment like this because like you had Gray being like a couple arcs ago. He was being more willing to be honest with her, like where she tried to like hug him and she like he like dodged, and then now he's like at the start of this arc she was showing off her Gray and Juvia buns. Where it's and he was like expressing disdain. Well, because I liked how she was like, "Oh, look, Gray buns modeled after you," and he's like, "I don't want to eat anything with my face on it." And she's like, "Well, I made Juvia buns because I predicted that might happen." He's like, "Well, shit." So yeah, but then so here like she's kind of like I guess hesitant to defeat the necromancer guy because that will take Gray away from his father and separate them, and she doesn't want to hurt Gray, but ultimately she like. She trusts in Gray to, the love will stay in his heart even if he's separated from his father. So she's like willing to hurt him because she trusts he can overcome it, basically. And what happens at the end of the arc, but like I guess she does kind of get rewarded for that because, Gray embraces her because, he's still grieving about his dad, but like, she can help him move past it. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's where they go with that. Because yeah, I have not put an express amount of thought into the Gray Juvia thing. But I guess it's better than nothing. Like I think in the past I dismissed it like, oh yeah, she's just like fervently in love with him, and but there's little bits to the relationship, even though that's like the core of it is her like obsessive love. But it's like there's more to it. I'd say little bits, but something. But yeah, Gray gets his power up. Now he's an edgy demon slayer.
I think, like on the topic of the Gray Juvia thing, it reminds me of, like the Sakura-Sasuke relationship and how like that does end up panning out. And there's almost like, I've heard people kind of describe it as like, there's a degree of sadness to that relationship because like, it's kind of just based on two people who don't really have those feelings for each other, but they're just kind of together, which in a way is like, you could just say, oh, Kishimoto's bad at writing romance. But in writing that in a certain way, it conveys like a totally different idea. And so maybe that's kind of what I'm getting through Gray and Juvia. It's like, maybe it's just a badly written romance, or maybe there's actually like something to read into this.
Maybe. I've not gone into a huge amount of romance stories myself, actually. So it's a genre I could stand to broaden my scope on, I suppose.
Watch Bloom Into You, or read it. It's good.
Oh, while Sting and Rogue are fighting Marred Gear, there's like a cutaway where Lester is talking about how Minerva is actually really good in the kitchen, and I like Panther Lily's reaction because he's like, he's just like, just his face of like contemplation, and the dumb panel of her like cooking is like, I don't know, something about that was funny.
There was the one line which, I mean, obviously it was not meant to be taken seriously, but it's just like, oh, she's a good wizard in the kitchen, and I'm like, oh, she'd make a good wife, and I'm like, oh my god. Panther Lily, no.
That's what he said. And, well, Lester's even like, I'm sure what you're imagining is far from the truth, but
it's like, it sounds nice, but you're probably off.
Because yeah, the picture like she's cute, and it's like, but no, it's still Minerva.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was. I'm not like actually being like bitter. It was more of like a tongue-in-cheek thing.
No, I gotcha. It's fine. So anyway, oh yeah. Also, I guess referring to the Natsu thing is
Natsu.
There was they spelled Aetherius with an A first, and then a few I guess
didn't that happen with Aetherion too? Like, or maybe that was more in Rave where it's like spelled with an A.
Well, that was a fan.
That was
that was fan translators too. So it's like we're talking different translation.
I thought it was in like
groups,
the actual. So. Never mind. We're going off on a tangent.
I mean, maybe they might have actually because like in this case, having an E is like meaningful because it's like the demons run on Aetherius. Natsu is the demoniest demon, apparently.
The demoniest.
END. Yes, I know what I said. Oh, that's right. He pretended to be the Demon King. Was it foreshadowing, Mashima? Are you being a cheeky ass bitch? Because he probably had this in mind for quite a while. I forget when the first bit of foreshadowing was. Because I've noticed
Wait.
This.
Wasn't there like a chapter cover, or not chapter cover? No, wait. Yes, that is what I'm thinking of. Where like it was like a callback to that arc where it was like Natsu as a demon in the background, and there were like a bunch of characters in the foreground doing stuff.
Maybe. I don't remember. I have not paid a huge amount of attention to the cover pages. But I was gonna say, because like, there's another possible explanation as far as foreshadowing goes, but neither gets brought up as like the definitive explanation. But do you remember in the Fairy Festival arc when Natsu and Gajeel weren't able to go through the barrier because they did have dragons inside of them, ancient dragon ghosts that would have been older than 80 years. Just saying. Yes. There is another possible explanation, but we don't have the context for it, so I can't explain it. But Mashima does foreshadowing things sometimes.
Yeah, and Wendy wasn't around in that arc, so she wasn't there to like disprove it or contradict it or anything.
Right. Well, because like I think, see, that was another weird thing about the whole dragon moment, because it's like Ignia was talking about how like, yeah, all 5 of them had the dragons inside of them, but for some reason we only see it come out of Natsu, and Grandine and Metallicana came from like the distance and stuff. So, which is just a weird presentation thing, because it's like they should have all come out from inside the dragons, but for some reason we only see it with Natsu.
Like Gajeel's dragon came off the one time that like a piece of his like iron chipped off back in Tenro, and it flew from the island. I have no idea.
A Grandini came from Wendy's hair that she just lost.
Yes. Exactly.
So anyway, so Natsu and Gajeel are fighting some more of the demons. They transform into their I guess, I never thought about this, but they actually like are able to do their special modes from will, or maybe it's Dragon Force because there was a whole thing that they can't activate Dragon Force, like because Sting and Rogue are able to go into Dragon Force whenever they want to, and they were like Natsu and Gajeel can't, but they can do their their partial like element, because Natsu's like his Ryan mode, and Gajeel's in his shadow mode, so it's like I don't know why I did Japanese for one and English for the other. So I don't know. The mechanics of like, since no one ever translates the fucking name of the attacks, I honestly can't even name most of the attacks, because I'm not gonna stop reading and like squint and look at all the little text and see, oh, Guren Bakurai Jin, it means blazing depth charge sword. No, I don't care. But I also don't know any of the names of like most of these attacks. Where it's like with Luffy, it's like Gum Gum Pistol. Like, oh yeah, I know, I can name a lot of Luffy's attacks because they're easy to remember, and they're in fucking English. I can't name Jinbei's attacks except in the Viz translation, because in other translations they don't bother.
Well, I think in like think in the Viz you do have something like, I think Zoro's Onigiri isn't translated, but most of them are.
Yeah, Zoro's attacks are. Yeah.
So like I guess there is a degree to where like you lose the pun that was meaning, kind of, right. The wordplay in Japanese, so maybe that's why they didn't translate it here.
Yeah,
but then like when I look at I don't know, never mind, I don't know.
No, because like now you mention it, Onigiri, it's Demon Slash, like, well, because like all the other ones lose because like a lot of them are like sushi puns, like Onigiri is rice ball, like I mentioned that. I just don't remember what some of the, like, not all of his attacks, but some of them, especially earlier on, they were like that. I just don't remember the other ones off the top of my head. So, but you're gonna lose that in translation no matter what. But like Onigiri is the one that would stay, I guess. But it's like burning Onigiri instead of like fried onigiri or whatever it would be if translated. So it's like, that's that. Not that it's a pretty obscure bit of trivia too. Like I've almost never seen it brought up, probably because it's not really like, it's just that trivia. But I don't know, translation's always a tricky beast. And everyone's gonna have their different like takes on it too. Like, do they include the honorifics or not? So like this, yeah. So anyway, oh, and they do have a dumb moment where it's like, they're being competitive and they like knock the demons away, and then they punch each other in the face because they're like, they're so stupid.
I don't know. Poor Gajeel is kind of like a rival to Natsu. I mean, like, Gray has become more relevant, whereas like Gajeel has kind of faded more as like into like a background character. So it is nice to see him like have this moment where he's like, able to go like toe to toe with Natsu, and I mean like he did get that in the Grand Magic games too, but I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
I guess I'm thinking back to more like
Tenro,
where he just got beaten up by the Mooks.
The Mooks, and even the Grand Magic games is like not like what I'm trying to remember what was the biggest thing Gajeel did. Like I don't even think he had like a major win that was like Gajeel, except against Rogue in the final like battle. Is like that's the one big like Gajeel wins outright moment where it's like back in the 2-on-2, Natsu just like kicks Gajeel to the side and wins single-handedly. It's like okay, so yeah, I get what you mean about like he's the kind of like second fiddle rival to Natsu. So yeah, but anyway, he has this underwater fight. See, when the Levy kiss happened, I was like, Levy, you can make air with your powers, and then like literally next chapter, Gajeel like tells her that it's like you could have just
that was a really cute moment because then she just has that moment where it's like just
she gets embarrassed and it's adorable.
I just like the two separate panels where it's like just her normal expression and then it's like the blush of realization where she's like, oh no,
and her like eyebrows furrow because she's like and then she's the panels after that she's just
she's just like randomly like waving her hands as she's like, oh no, what have I done? But she's like spelling out her magic or whatever.
Yeah, she's starting the magic. So right. So and of course like through Levy and the I guess you could Gajeel's able to win because he has oxygen and he can fucking breathe. Oh, that's right. He does like a power up with like carbon to make steel or something.
Yeah, that was pretty cool because it's like it's the poison in the water, but of course he's a metal dragon, so it's metal, right. So he does absorb it and power up, and also like the panel of
and also
the panel of Gajeel and Levy, it does look super artsy. It's like they're in the water and the shading.
Yes. Though I'm not sure about the ideas of this fight and how because there's also like the flashback with the Elder, which Mashima was talking about how he had this idea. This was another idea he'd had for a while, because the Elder Belno was always kind of looking out for him, even when he was in Phantom Lord, and he regretted that he wasn't able to like pay her back. But I haven't thought about how like this fight like factors into the rest of the arc's themes and stuff.
I wondered. But this is more of a tangent, but I don't know. I just like feel it in my gut. It just feels right. But I wonder if like the Levy Gajeel ship is like Mashima's favorite, because it's not like Gray and Juvia where it's very like in your face. This is obviously a thing. This is more of like something that's been kind of happening in the background, just like the fact that they're paired off together and stuff, and then like a moment like this happens where not much is like called attention to it. Like
it is definitely very blatant. Like, come on, they kiss. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Gray and Juvia kiss in the entire manga. And like compare this to like Urza and Jalal, like they had their sort of silhouette kiss, almost kiss. I don't even know because we don't see.
And they're always super awkward around each other too. Like it's like
But here they very like blatantly have a kiss that we see, even if it's technically for a different reason, with her giving him the oxygen. But like when she could just write it. So yeah, it is. But you're right. It is like there's less attention paid to it than Gray versus Juvia. But I'd say that when it is paid attention,
to, it's like because it's given less attention, it can be more direct, which is weird. Yes. Like that sounds contradictory, but somehow it works.
Yes. Yep. They're cute. Oh, and I guess like he as a human he has his purpose to protect his friends or whatever. I tried.
I also didn't really have much to take away from the Gajeel flashback that was integrated into that fight.
Yeah, it was just there, right? Because like I've mentioned how like I liked how the Mir Jane and the Gray Silver stuff and the even the Minerva flashback where it's like you have all these ideas that connect to other arcs also working for this arc. But here you have this one idea that Mashima's had for a while, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to make too much of a, like, factor into much of the, like, conflicts of the arc and stuff like those other things do. So I'm like, okay, I guess, whatever. Sad. Alright. Now we get to the absolute best part of the arc. Urza versus Kyoka. Well, you also have Acnologia coming in.
Oh yeah, I remember just like opening, or like bringing up the next volume and looking at the chapter titles, and it's like Acnologia versus Ignia. I'm like, oh, this goes places.
Oh shit, that's right. That's like a big spoiler. In the chapter titles.
Because it was like more of like the midpoint in the volume, so it's like there were a couple chapters before that, so it's just like, oh, how does this happen?
Right? And then we see how it happens. Acnologia is like, I'm gonna come and fuck shit up because I feel like it. And Natsu starts hearing Ignio's voice, and I've been within you this entire time. Yeah, I already mentioned how it's weird that like we only see it come out of Natsu and not the others. But like, I don't know. I do like how Ignio's like, no, Natsu, you gotta go do things, and Natsu's like, I don't care, tell me things, explain something. Like he's like he's disagreeing with his dad, and he's like Ignio's fucking fighting Acnologia, and Natsu's like, dad, pay attention to me. It's like, I like that.
No, yeah, that is kind of, now that I think about it, yeah, that's good.
It's very Natsu, because I argue in the tirade that like, because I did you watch all of part 1?
I don't know if no, because I did try to avoid spoilers as much as I could.
Fair. Because like, I guess I had because I would have mentioned this a lot, yeah. Because I had issues with, like, at the time I had issues with how, like, Natsu is a very goal, forward-driven character, yet I argue that he doesn't quite feel right for this story, because it's like comparing him to like Golden or Luffy, like they're constantly after their goals. Luffy's, like they get sidetracked in these other adventures, but overall, like,
they have like clues and things that they can follow. Yes,
the story is structured in a forward fashion, where compared to Natsu, is he like finds out little like whenever he has the opportunity, like when he meets Gajeel, he's like, hey, you're a dragon slayer, tell me about the dragons. Like, he asks about what's up. But other than that, it's like nothing really happens, Like, overall his motive doesn't, like, it's not, he has the same kind of motive, but it's not forward-driven story-wise, because the story, like, events just kind of happen, and the characters react to them, and sometimes they go out to do a mission, and it's always more than it seems, So that was basically what I was complaining about, is like, Natsu's goal doesn't mesh as well with the story, but I do like how, like, now that Ignil's in front of him, he's like he goes for it with everything, he's like
Ignil is fighting Acnologia, and he just like jumps up onto Ignil and is like, hey, pay attention to me,
Dad, you better say words. And I like, Ignil even says like, I'm all fired up, like he says the Natsu thing, or rather Natsu says the Ignil thing, and it's like, I don't know, we only get a little bit of interaction between them, but it's actually pretty good.
I really don't like what Mashima does with Ignil, though. Like that.
I think I know.
Natsu. His driving character motivation, and we meet the character for all of like 5-10 chapters, and then he's gone. He's dead. It's like, what the? Why?
No, he was always dead. He was a ghost. He was a spooky ghost dad. Ghost dragon dad who was inside Natsu the whole time. They were all spooky ghost dragon dads and mom, and the one mom.
I mean, I do kind of like the idea of like, just because someone's dead doesn't mean that like they're like, they're still inside you, but like, it reminds me of the cartoon Cypher video about the fairy tale, which I don't remember even what all they discussed, but I just remember like, it was a more personal look at it. Yes. So like that, I don't know, but like, I don't know. Otherwise, I feel like, that's like the not the line in the sand. What's the word? It's like the little nugget that it's like, okay, here's the good amidst the stuff that just like frustrates me.
Speaking of things that frustrate you, they cut away from that for Urza versus Kyoka for real this time. And we already kind of memed about it a bit because it's just so over the top. Like and of course it's I will give credit to Mashima where it's due. He frames it in the perfect way, where it's like, yeah, she's like, she's blind. She has none of her main senses. she's experiencing intense amounts of pain, and yet she's still barehandedly defeats Kyoka. And she's like,
the only thing about this that seemed kind of weird to me, Kyoka took away her sense of touch, yet she could still feel pain. That to me seemed a little... I mean, like, I get it, it's like pain receptors or something, you know, nerves or whatever.
Yeah,
so, like,
no,
that's not necessarily the same thing. To me, it just feels kind of weird.
Yeah, no, well, I understand it, but at the same... Like, it is kind of weird because it's like... Because we have more than 5 senses. Like, it's like, oh, you have the 5 main senses, but it's like we have other... We don't, like... Here's an example. Like, the example I always think of is, like... We have a chronological sense. We can feel time passing, but we don't feel it with any of our... We don't touch time passing. We don't smell time passing, but we can tell that time has passed. This is a sense that we have. Like, I think I remember just looking up on Wikipedia, I was like, oh, wait, yeah, there are way more senses. Like, you can tell whether you're upside down or not based on, like, you know, there's an organ in your ears that has a liquid in it that, you know, it's able to tell whether... So it's like we have other senses. So it's like, it depends on... Yeah, that makes sense if you're like, well, do you touch pain? Like, does that count as feeling something? Is that quite the same?
Yeah.
So I understand, but it's like, there are other senses. So, but it's like also whenever, you know, all the senses get removed, then it's like the fact that you do have more senses it's like, I guess it's just a really common misconception. So I'm bringing reality into it when... you know, obviously this fictional story doesn't care about the reality.
I did like how
senses.
Panther Lily was like, oh, she must have used a 6th or 7th sense to power through.
And yeah, I never thought about that because they do talk about how, oh yeah, we have the 6th sense, but it's like you do have more than 5 senses, so it's silly. But yeah, and that was because he's just like trying to explain it, and it's just like it's so over the top. And
no, I do kind of like that over
like,
the top aspect of it though.
Yeah.
Like it's not over the top in a way that's like, oh, this defies like power mechanic logic or anything. I don't know. Like it's just it's over like, the top in the right way. It's like, you know, like
okay,
you know, you can lose a bunch of blood or whatever. Like Zoro losing however like a pint and a half or whatever it was described in that one fight.
No. That was, like, for most of his fights, like Kabaji and Hachi. With Mr. 1, he had a pint left.
Oh.
He lost, like, 5 pints. It was the inverse. He lost most of his blood in that fight, but he still, like, was moving around and perfectly fine after that. But yeah,
I do like that kind of exaggeration where it's just, like, so over the top and goofy, but it's, like, super hype. It just works. So, like, this is similar to, like, Urza taking out all 100 of the monsters in the Grand Magic games, where it's just, like... You know, because it's Urza. Like, we're far enough into the story where it's like, I can just accept this because it's Urza.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say, is like, Mashima does frame it perfectly with through Happy. He's just like, because it's Urza. And everyone just nods along, and it's like, yeah. I mean, what are we going to do? Deny it? Because it's like, it's just too... Like, even all the cats that they go, I'll buy that. Like, they get it. It's Urza. It's just... Yeah, it's so dumb. Like, I guess, you know, for me, it's like, it is over the top and shit. Like, to compare it with Pandemonium, I just like the brevity of the Pandemonium thing, where it's just like, it's like one chapter. And, like, you know, also with this specific, like, fight, I also think about the torture stuff, because that is part of, like, the relationship. Because I'm tempted to say Kyoka might be the most, like... Well, because, like, she does have this desire to live. Like, she doesn't want to sacrifice herself. Like, she has aversions toward it, but she still does it anyway because that's her purpose. Like, she's the one who kind of loses out the most by being a demon, in a sense. Like, she had the potential to be human, but she throws that away, you know? But, like, aside from that, like, I don't... Like, Urza's just the one... Like, she has the speeches that basically say the theme outright. Like, I think after she first gets freed, she has some lines... when she's fighting Kyoka that I'm like, oh, look, there it is, the whole point of this arc. But yeah, like, it is over the top in it, so it is kind of fun in that way. But yeah, even though Kyoka gets beaten and Minerva stabs her, face still activates. Oh, and there was a little detail, because Acnologia is kind of similar to Marred Gear in a way, because they both look down on humans, but, like, Marred Gear ultimately, like, comes to, like, recognize humans even more because he, like, through fighting them and he, like, feeling emotions and stuff. Whereas, like, Acnologia, he only talks to Ignia here, like, because Ignia even like calls him out on, he's like, oh, you finally speak, and Acnologia is like, well, I recognize you as my enemy, because like I think it was mentioned back on Tenro Island, it's like, no, he doesn't speak to humans because he sees them as insects. So but there is a difference between the two. I do like the exchange where Mardgear's like, oh, you have reawoken a long forgotten sensation, rage, and Natsu's like, oh, you finally caught up to humans, and it's like, okay, Natsu, given those little lines, I like it. So thoughts on Natsu and Gray versus Mardgear?
I did kind of like the moments where Gray just seemed to be on a whole, like a completely different level than everyone else. Like he was just coming in and like Gajeel, I think it was Gajeel and Natsu. No, it was Natsu and the other two.
Yeah, Sting and Rogue.
Yeah,
yes.
They were just like, geez, like he's so fast and he's like freezing all these attacks that we couldn't even block or whatever. Yeah. So like Gray with his
he got this.
Yeah, after the fight with
cool.
Silver, he has this like
because he got a new threshold power up, so he's stronger. Yeah, Gray's strong. That's because usually the main character is the strongest, and like you've always had Urza, but now you've got like Gray. He's the one who's overpowered.
And plus, like Gray had already had his big character moment fight, but then he still comes back and is still like contributing pretty significantly to like he is part of the like he teams up with Natsu and they kind of defeat him together, which was cool.
Yeah, and it's cool. And there's I guess there's also this is where the Jimia, the guild, I don't know Zema. Okay, I think that's how you pronounce it. But the Sabretooth Guildmaster, who Sting and Rogue have a bit of a fight with, that I honestly completely forgot. Like this kind of feels like one of those like Trinity Raven bits where Mashima is like, oh shit, I need more antagonists because I have too many fucking characters.
Yeah.
So he enters because like he just like, oh, I was here the whole time, I guess. Oh no, wait, no. Mardgear says, oh, I see you made it in time. So he was off dicking around somewhere else. And he just comes in at this exact moment to fight to keep Sting and Rogue away while Natsu and Gray fight Mardgear because there's no as it goes because gotta have the shonen fights go exactly how they need to be. But I forget if I have anything to say about the Sting and Rogue fighting because he's just going on about the weakness and stuff, whereas Sting and Rogue, they have emotions and friendship now, so they're fine.
It's a theme fight because they friendship, so they win 2-on-1, and the friendship power gives them the over the isolation. Yeah. It's
and the page with all like the strings of light and dark looks kind of neat, interesting.
There was another like panel where it was like Natsu's fire and like Gray's ice kind of like intermixing. That was kind of neat.
But yeah, I do like how they team up attack to kind of finish like. They're doing attacks, or like Natsu does a thing, and that's right. He thought Gray was down, and Natsu was fighting him, and then Natsu kind of kept him in place so Gray could do the final blow, and they defeated Mardgear. And of course, they have their fight because again, they're both thinking about their dads and what their dad wants. And regarding destroying the book, that's apparently related to Natsu because he is the end. But yeah, Face starts to activate. The other dragons come in to save the day.
Although that does kind of make me wonder. It doesn't really matter. It's a minor nitpick. But like, supposedly there were over 2,000 of those Face things. How many dragons came back to? Because we saw even like Blue Pegasus was trying to like destroy one of them, and they didn't have the magic to do it. So.
Oh, But yeah, going on, Neil tries to say, like, because as we found out last time, Acnologia was a dragon slayer who turned into a dragon because he used dragon slayer's magic so much, and probably bathed in the blood of dragons. Like, I think, well, unless that's not a thing, I don't know, because that was what Sting and Rogue seemed to imply at first, but then it turns out that's not actually like they did kill the dragons, but I don't know. But the point is, Acnologia turned into a dragon, and by staying in the bodies of their dragon slayers, Ignia and the others could prevent that from happening to Natsu and them. Acnologia apparently only desires destruction. Zeref just comes in to steal the fucking book. And Mardgear has a bit of a reaction because he's, he wants to fulfill his purpose, but Zeref says it's impossible.
You're useless.
Yeah. And of course, you know, as a demon with a purpose, if he can't fulfill his purpose, he's nothing. So Zeref literally unmakes him, you know. So very sad. And he just leaves. Zeref's just an asshole. He comes into like, I could solve this situation instantly by going to Mard Gear, but I'm gonna let you guys fight. And then he just like comes in to steal the book, the result of all their hard work. And it's like, okay, asshole. But yeah, Ignia also wanted the chance to possibly defeat Acnologia, but he failed. There's a bit of a, like, I don't know, how'd you feel about the exchange where, like, Ignia takes off an arm, but then Acnologia takes off, like, most of Ignia?
Yeah, that was like, ooh.
Pretty brutal spread. Ignia gives a few parting words. Oh yeah, Lumen History. I forgot to even mention it, but apparently it's like a crystallized Mavis Vermilion. Okay. Why? I don't remember, honestly. I remember parts of it, but it's also like, what?
It's so weird then, because the ghost of Mavis also showed up at the end, so it's like the two Mavis. What?
Spooky double Mavis. So yeah, the other Dragon Slayers have some parting words with their dragons who explain the rest. You know, they're already dead. Now that they have no bodies to return to, they're just going to fade away. Okay. And Natsu, I think this is another moment that... It's just like the one at the end of the Tower of Din arc in Rave, where Haru was crying about his dad,
yeah.
And then Natsu was crying about his dad, and again, I thought of Mashima not having his dad, and reading like the main character's words into Mashima himself, and that got me a bit emotional.
Craftsdwarf, stop.
Stop, Mashima, stop. But yeah, you know, the dragons are willing to pass the age on to humans who have, you know, defeated the demons because they're human, basically. And Natsu says he wants to get stronger to beat Acnologia. And that's more or less the end of the Tartaros arc. There's a little bit of cooldown, though. That was a story. Things happened in it.
Yeah, this isn't like the Grand Magic games where I was like, oh, the Grand Magic games were like my second favorite arc in Fairy Tail, even though there was a lot of shenanigans that made me feel weird about it. This one is more just like, it's very middle of, yeah.
Yeah, like I'd say, like there were a couple of moments I really, really liked, but like discussing it, I'm a bit less positive on it than I thought I would be. I still don't know how to rank my arc ranking. I haven't updated it in a while, so, but it's okay because like there were some comments like, oh yeah, this is the arc where everyone dropped it. But apparently from server discussion, it's also like the favorite arc of like fans of the series. Like people like it a lot. I don't know if it's the favorite arc, but there are people who like it a lot, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It exists. But anyway, Laxus and gang wake up. Wendy's hair grows back. Thanks to cancer.
Out of context. Ugh.
Thank you, cancer. But yeah, Juvia admits to Gray that she was the one who effectively killed Silver by destroying the Necromancer. Gray thanks her and starts crying. And there's the Gray fixed the headstone because I think before it had Gray crossed out and Mika because he was alive, but now it says Silver and you know the name of his parents. Urza has the kind of flashback where she's connecting her torture to her being a kid again. I guess. There is one exchange I like because like Jalal is like, oh yeah, you understand strength and weakness, so move forward. And Cobra, he's like, oh yeah, I bet he thinks he's so cool.
Yeah.
Like he's like, cause he can hear it, of course, because he has good hearing. So he's just like shitting on Jalal, and I'm like, okay, I like that. Minerva goes back to Sabretooth. Oh, that's right, I forgot.
That's not a good sign.
Mest. Duranbolt.
Oh, that's right.
So here's how stupid this is. Like, we're not even quite done with it, but... So Mest was originally a member of Fairy Tail, who with a secret mission from Makarov, went undercover to the Magic Council as Duranbolt. But then, independently, he snuck back into Fairy Tail, secretly, and came up with the name Mest. And... like, his memory has been gone, so he didn't even know he was a Fairy Tail member. It's just so dumb, it's goofy and funny. I don't think I like it, but I think it's funny. Like, holy shit. Why?
Yeah, it's another one of those, like... really like plot twisty turn. What?
Yeah, it's like we're like, obviously it's just like, oh, I came up with this idea after the fact, so now he has to like, it was always been like this, like.
Yeah, so like he had to wipe his memories to say that he wasn't in Fairy Tail, to then
but
join
then
the council.
He wiped everyone else's memories so that they thought like, well, because he wiped everyone else's memories when they left, so they didn't know that there was a missing guild member. Except for Makarov.
And then he like to rejoin, he fabricated fake memories of him being in the guild, even when he was in the guild. Because
he didn't know any better. It's just funny. Like maybe it is funny because it's just like, it is character dumbness, but it's all
it's a galaxy brain plot twist, like deceiving yourself. Deceiving others, deceiving yourself while deceiving others about deceiving yourself. I don't even know.
Trust no one, not even yourself. I'm gonna just put Mest and Doran both there. But anyway, Makarov says he's disbanding Fairy Tail. Natsu leaves. He wants to go get stronger. He's gonna go train for a year. Gray tells Juvia that he's going to take down End. Azareth drops the Aetherius Natsu Dragneel bit, which we've already talked about in depth, because like there was more foreshadowing. Like again the fact that the Aetherius with an A changed to an E. This is I wonder why that could be, because the E is relevant. And then we get another like a dialogue-less chapter with Natsu and Guildarts. Which is that's right. It's just dumb and goofy kind of way to end off the thing. It's fun. Well, I like the exchange where like they meet each other and they're like happy, and Natsu like punches Guildarts and he's like bleeding, and then Guildarts punches Natsu and he's like in the sky. Like
Team Rocket's blasting off again.
Yes, they're just so dumb and it's funny. They train for a bit. And
I like the panel where like they fight, and then like Natsu gets like taken out by the animal thing, and then Guildarts saves him and destroys the whole mountain, and then Guildarts is like, let's go another round, and Natsu just like shakes his head. You can just see like the sweat as he's like, still got
that terror, yes, that fear. Oh, and then of course they part ways, and they took each other's bags, and like, so all that was in Natsu's bag was literal trash, and all that was in Guildart's bag was like fucking porn, and so Natsu's just like
and Guildarts like runs back to find him, and then like they fight.
Yes,
it's a cute chapter.
And then of course there's the photo with Guildarts and Kana. So the end of the chapter and end off the arc, because Fairy Tail did you deconstruct Shounen by having 2 time skips? Oh boy, that was Tartaros. That was an arc. It had some cool little things.
Oh yeah, they disbanded Fairy Tail apparently.
Yeah,
Makarov.
Yep. And so yeah, we are almost done. So yeah, Tartaros. Discussing. It's weird. Like with Grand Magic Games, it was cool to read and cool to discuss. With Tartaros, like reading it, parts of it was good, but discussing it, the negative is starting to stand out a little bit more. But like I said, I still think like the gray silver stuff was really good, and just in some other parts were good. It was a manga arc from a long running series that's like the 3rd best selling in its entire magazine. Sorry, next time is gonna be shorter. Oh shit, we didn't decide if we were gonna do it like are we gonna do it next week or normal time, and then like
we can try for it. Because this is it will be a somewhat shorter reading than the one we just did.
All right, we will make. I don't even know what day I'm available to. I might not have a good day next week, so maybe we should.
All right, that's fine.
We'll talk about it. But anyway, next time. So first we are reading Fairy Tail 0. Like this is where the anime put it. They put it in for the time skip, like after Tartaros, but before. The anime was weird because it's like they literally only have like 1 or 2 episodes from the post second time skip. And then the season ends until the final season, which started like just a few months ago, which actually goes into the final arc and stuff. So we'll be reading Fairy Tail 0, which, as I mentioned, it covers the formation of the guild, so it's focused on Mathis. and those other Warad, and the other two guys, one of them obviously being Hades, he had the eye patch and stuff. Then we'll be reading the Avatar arc, which is a fairly short arc. Basically, like the Sun Village arc, it goes into that final arc, and we'll be reading a few chapters of the final arc. So we'll be reading Fairy Tail 0 and chapters 418 to 452. So it's a much smaller stretch than normal. Mostly because I don't want to do all of the rest of it in one episode. That would be painful to record and edit. And then, of course, there's still the top 5 and the characters and the arc rankings and the fights we liked. And so Alvara's episode is going to be long enough as it is. So this is just a little bit to alleviate that. We're going to try and finish it. I guess, like, if we do shorten it, it'll be within the next 3 weeks. Either we'll get one episode next week, and then 2 weeks later will be Alvara's, or we'll get we'll get like 1 week break, and then we'll get the Fairy Tail 0 episode, and then Alvara's the week after, or maybe there'll just be a break, another just normal 2 weeks later. I don't know. we didn't plan it very well. We're almost done with Fairy Tail, though. Yay!
There's like
one real arc remains.
2 episodes of the podcast left.
Yes, and only like 130 chapters or so, or yeah. All right. So yeah, thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.